Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework.
Man, that's why I'm saying the rankings are bullshit.
From Canada.
Got a really high fight IQ.
For this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
Levels to the shit.
So many high-level guys.
So, like, the line is crazy.
Oh, there we go. Okay, welcome to another edition of the Don't Tap Podcast. I am Callum McGregor, as always, here with Nick Eagle Eye and the sharp one that we have, the Capper's favorite capper, Mr. Pub Sports Radio, Billy Briz. Billy Brisbane, welcome back to the show again. You're pretty much just part of the Don't Tap Podcast at this point.
How you guys doing, man? Happy, I know you guys are Canadian, but happy holidays, Memorial Day for the families out there in the world. You know, got to let the bullets fly off for the beloved veterans.
Happy Memorial Day, brother. 100%. Hey, Nick, you got a gun you want to shoot up in the air right now?
Nothing I'm willing to show on camera.
He did, didn't he? Sorry,
yeah, I forgot. You guys are Canadian. You guys don't know anything about the American holidays.
Yeah, I gotta watch what I say because now our internet we may lose the podcast if I say anything a little bit too, what would be considered right wing, but is more middle at this point. Anyway, let's jump into stuff that doesn't matter to people that would demonetize and take away everything that is what we've worked for. Let's look at MMA. So we have UFC Fight Night coming up. Pre the UFC Vancouver card, which is a pretty big one next week. But if we are looking at this, we have three. We're jumping in a little bit early. I know that, Billy, if you have 2 spots, 3 spots, whatever it is, Nick, let's just chop it up. Billy, I want you to take it away. Come in with your first spot. And what we're going to do this time is, we'll cross-section ours, go back and forth with 3 spots. At the end, we're going to pick a parlay depending on what we have. Our sharpest spots are ones that we agree most on. So how about it, Billy? What's your first spot you want to take in?
Yeah, out of the 13-fight card, we had a good selection this week. But there's one fight, the people's main event this week. It's on the flyweights. And we're not talking about Kai Kara-France and Amir Albazi. We're talking about Tim Elliott and Victor Altamirano. A lot of controversy over my guy, Tim Elliott. Now my guy, Tim Elliott, over his wife cheating on him with former teammate Kevin Kroom. He seems to be in a good headspace, though. He did an interview last week with James Lynch on Pub Sports Radio. We all were watching very closely and seemed to be in a good headspace. He's got a lot of wealth of experience over Altamirano, despite his 7-10 record in the promotion. While Altamirano has an awkward striking style himself, it's his takedown defense that's a huge concern for me. He's the only fighter in Dana White Contender Series history that's ever got signed to the promotion on the same night as a loss. And he lost the fight versus Candelario from pulling guard. And he's had a habit of doing that. That's cost him his UFC debut. It's a reoccurring problem in his fights. And against Tim Elliott, a guy who attempts 3.73 takedowns per 15 minutes, I feel like Elliott will definitely be able to get takedowns willingly. And in his last fight versus Tagir Ulianbekov, Khabib's cousin, he dominated him in the wrestling from pillar to post throughout the whole entire time. As long as his head's straight and he's ready to work, I think Tim Elliott should be the favorite on the spot. I mean, that's a pretty generous price tag. Opened up at -175, going up to -192. So the public action seems to agree. I'm honestly tempted to see what the props come out for because I think he gets a $50K bonus.
I had a feeling you might jump on that spot. I know you brought up the one and only Miss Gina Mazzani, and no one wants to clap for her. Miss Gina Mazzani. Tim Elliott. There is a narrative there. And I don't know if I don't really think the emotional side is going to be so crazy. I just don't know how the instability might be with his camp and all the stuff he's had to deal with. Have you checked out his Instagram to see he's been training pretty consistent and pretty hard?
He's been training consistently pretty hard. I mean, it's just like a lot of the surrounding factors kind of, what this fight reminds me of a little bit narrative wise, the Mackenzie Dern fight versus Angela Hill, because you talk about Mackenzie Dern. Did you see that shit in her divorce report thing? Dude, that shit's pretty serious, man.
Hey, I was on Angela Hill, and the new rule is this, as I'm holding up my cards. The new rule is this. A pissed off Mackenzie Dern is part of the new women's MMA betting. Like a woman
Dead ass,
scored.
though.
Holy shit!
I was reading some of the reports. She said that she tried to bring up domestic violence, and then he said that she punched him in the face. Actually, and she's the sign fighter. I was like, damn, man, that should look like a Jerry Springer article or something like that. But as I digress a little bit, I don't know, man. This feels very similar to the Tim Elliott situation. I mean, Mackenzie Dern was dealing with the divorce, her camp and stuff like that. We're all questioning if she was really training because her head coach was with Luke Rockhold a couple weeks ago for BKFC out there for his camps and stuff like that. And it's kind of a similar situation here for Tim Elliott. I feel like despite all of that, I mean, he's only a minus 192. If he took all that away and we knew we were getting full Tim Elliott without the bullshit concerns of us knowing his life, it would probably be a minus 275 favorite.
Yeah, I actually was looking at this one. And I didn't know what way I was going to go, but I was leaning actually even like potentially Altamirano, and he's normally a fade for me, but just because of the narrative. But I decided that because of Mackenzie Dern, she's taught me one thing: I'm gonna stay away from narratives, especially when it comes to divorces. I have a feeling men will probably be a little bit softer in the divorce, women will probably be a little bit crazier and harder and go nuts. Probably a bad
I think
thing
it all
to say,
depends on what the divorce is, and she cheated on him with Kevin Kroon. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I would be in this situation. It looked like everything was very tight, so it's not just like he loses his girl as we're going down Drama Street, but he's also losing a friend and training. Like it's just there's a whole bunch there. That's why it's a stay off from me. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, man. I think Tim Elliott's definitely the side. I think he's a safe parlay piece. Victor Altamirano makes a lot of mistakes. As you said, he's very complacent on being on his back. He's good when he's wrestling and like he does throw clean shots, but Tim Elliott's so unorthodox that I feel like if it stays standing, that he's just going to be able to dance around Victor and kind of confuse him. And in the wrestling world, I think it's Tim Elliott all day. So I don't really see a lot of upside for Victor in this one. I think the line's dropped, as you guys said, because of that. And I do think that Tim would be a much bigger favorite if there wasn't all this controversy going on. I think it's just a huge step up in competition, too. Like, usually Tim Elliott's always facing the top tier, and this is kind of not the bottom of the barrel for him, but it's definitely lower down on the list. And these are the guys he definitely usually shines against. And we were on a big with Tajir, too, right? We said that, like, Tajir is the cousin that, people just kind of back him because of that last name and everything. And it's just
He was the cousin that wanted to be the banker, and they dragged him to wrestling practice.
Yeah, I think that was your exact
the thing
quote.
is with the cousin tree, you gotta know the Nurmagomedov family. We'll talk about the Nurmagomedovs a little bit on, but
I'm sure you will.
Like Umar and Usman, Umar, the one that's in Bellator, that's little brother to Usman is little brother to Umar, and they're actually like bloodline could be cousins, but Abubakar is actually just a cousin. Islam is a family friend from when they were like 9 years old, and he just became like a part of the family. So it's like you gotta really pay attention to the Magomedov family tree, because just because they're coming out that camp doesn't mean they're automatic back.
100%. That guy is Tagir is a fade in a lot of situations. But with Tim Elliott, I see what you guys are saying. The first instinct for me was the difference in step up in competition. So Tim Elliott's the way you look at it, but then I was looking at trying to find ways for Altamirano because of the narrative, and for me, that's why it's a stay off. But instinct-wise, I see why you guys are going with Elliott. It does make complete sense. So 2 out of 3 go for Elliott. Nick, bring your pick to the table.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with the OV last names on this one. I'm going with Abubakar, man. I picked up the line at plus 120. That line no longer exists. It's pretty much a pick 'em across the board. I think that people are giving Alazio a lot of credit in this one. His last fight against Benoit Saint Denis, he kind of put a beating on him, but he throws super wild. And with a guy like Abubakar, he's just going to be able to capitalize on those takedowns. He's going to make this a very slow and boring fight. And I think that he's just going to be able to just kind of drag this one out. I don't think he's going to give Alazio the opportunities he needs to land his big shots. And I see a lot of clinch control. I see Alazio on his back. He's been taken down in a lot of his fights, and he's been taken down in a lot of his losses. And I think this is just a bad stylistic matchup for him.
Yeah, I like the spot, man. The fact that you got that early, good plus money, good spot. And for those of you that don't follow us on Instagram or follow Nick on Instagram, we'll put that out again at the end. It'll be in any descriptions and in any platforms that you listen to. we'll put up plays early, even before we get the podcast out. So check it out. Also, obviously, Billy Briz on Twitter. I mean, if you're not following Billy right now in basketball, what are you doing though? Like, really, Billy, what's your take on this this fight Nick's bringing to the table?
This is a little bit of a nerve-wracking one because you see the last name Nurmagomedov and you think he's gonna go out here and wrestle, but like sometimes Abubakar just doesn't I don't know, man. He just doesn't execute the game plan like he just doesn't do the father's plan the same exact way as everybody else. But in a weird way, I think this is a step up a level of competition for him. I know he fought in the PFL, I know he's fought in the UFC a couple of times, but I mean, if you look at his UFC fights, he fought David Zawada, got knocked the fuck out. Jared Gooden is not that good. And Godzi, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that dude's name, but he's just, the name looks good, but in reality, you watch his tape, he's really not that good. It's just like Zaleski's kind of is somewhat of a step up of competition. I feel like everybody that he's fought, he's kind of like whooped their ass. Sean Strickland, when he fought him, he whooped his ass. Luigi Vanderimi, he whooped his ass. Curtis Millender, he rear naked choked him. I mean, if you want him to punch, he'll punch. If you want him to wrestle, he'll wrestle. So, I mean, is Abubakar really set out to finish this guy? Probably not. So, I think it's a greasy split decision. So, I'm more interested in the totals than actually picking a side here.
I'm going to go with the fight that was booked a year ago. I'm going to go the first fight of the night. I'm going to do what you guys have been doing and stick my neck out a little bit on that first fight of the night. A lot of people are high on Philip Lins, but Philip Lins had a big, juicy moment with a KO over, and I mean a juicy KO over Ovince Prue, which is, what does that mean exactly at this point? It sort of is like the ghost of Ovince Prue. So I'm going to go with Maxime Grishin in this spot. And I know that right now Grishin could be had for minus 148 at best. I like Grishin by decision as well as for a prop. The way that I picked this apart a year ago was Grishin's going to be able to actually use his distance outside and use those leg kicks. Lins has been in and out of injuries and surgeries for the past like 10 years. He's missed so many fights, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that can't, like, time and time again in training camps, unless this guy's pissing hot, which I know everybody's saying he was juicy and stuff, but eventually he's going to get caught if that's the case. I'm going to go with Grishin on this, man. I think the guy's a vet, been around for a long time. Better stand-up, in my opinion. I know that Lins is a little more explosive, but I think Lins is going to be able to dance around the outside, counter any kind of wrestling, implement some zone wrestling as well, too, if he needs to. I'm going to take Maxime Grishin in this spot. I like the money line. I like Grishin by decision when the line drops. That's going to be one of my plays. Not my number one confident play, but I thought I'd throw it out there as the first prelim play of the night.
Yeah, man, I agree as well. I don't think highly of Philip Lins at all. I think the guy used to do a lot of steroids and looked a lot better outside of the UFC. Coming into this fight, man, like I said, I agree with you. I think Maxime Grishin is just going to be the much better striker. He's going to be able to dance around him. And I think he's going to win a clear unanimous decision. I don't really got much else to add to it other than what you pretty much said.
I think I'm on an island for this one. I actually have Felipe Lins. This is actually one of the fights I was going to bring up. Grisham's someone I've never really been too high on. It's his takedown defense that's always a concern for me. He's been taken down 7 times across 4 UFC fights, which isn't really that good, especially at the light heavyweight division where we don't really see a lot of wrestlers. While we don't know what Lins we're going to get, the guy that showed up the last 2 fights looks pretty fucking good. I mean, Grisham's not really that in the clear either. He's always missing weight and struggling to cut down to 205. He's always having to fight at catch weight and stuff like that. I think this is going to be a greasy one. I kind of want to see these 2 weigh in before I actually put money on this fight, but I lean towards Felipe Lins wrestling Maxime Grishin. Maxime Grishin doesn't throw a lot of volume. This is going to be a low volume fight, and I think I'm going to go with the wrestler over the striker here.
So bet the split decision prop.
Yeah, that's not a bad play either with the split decision, because someone could look at the power of Lins pressing forward, maybe a couple takedowns. Grishin gets up, outpoints him on the feet. I get it. It's 100% greasy. Part of the reason why I stuck with this one was the way I broke it down a year ago. I liked it a lot better before the last, KO of Ovince Pro, even though it is OSP. And
it's like when you're watching the tape of Maxime Grishin, he fights once a year, damn near. And while Felipe Lins, I'm not too high on him. I mean, at least he's fought 2 times in the last year and he's been active and stuff like that. I mean, prior to that, it was cancellation after cancellation after cancellation, and he was kind of like the running joke in the MMA community. And then he showed up the last 2 fights and he showed the fuck up for real.
And my only thing is just that those knees. That was a big part of my breakdown last time. And I think that with Grishin's style, he's going to be able to stomp that knee to be able to throw leg kicks like crazy and land them. But I was going to say the reason why I picked this one as my pick was because John Castaneda is actually someone I was leaning as a play for this week over Gafarov. I know people are going to probably want to lean Gafarov and everything else, but I was going to go John Castaneda, and that line's not out yet. So I'm going to stick to my guns on a pick that I had already broken down. I was leaning Grishin in this one, so I'll put it out as a prelim play. But I do get the Lynn side with the power. It goes to the scorecards. It could be a split. It could even be a unanimous decision one way, or even a KO on Lynn's side. But I see Grishin winning the decision here. So next pick, I believe Billy. Take it away.
Yeah. We're gonna switch it up here a little bit, go on the cuffs. I'm gonna go Guram Gudalatse and Jamie Malarkey here. I don't know how I feel about the side because this is one where like I always make fun of the value boys, but the value boys make a good valid statement here. I think Jamie Malarkey could win this fight. I feel like plus 255 is a little bit wild, but this is a podcast that we're talking about betting and where we're putting our money on stuff, and it hasn't came out yet, but it's probably the under 2.5 here. I hope it's a 2.5, but I think the under 2.5 is going to be the play. Both these two fighters of recent have gone to split decision for Jamie Malarkey against Michael Johnson, and then a unanimous decision versus Prado, who's supposed to be like a potent finisher. Gudielate, he is back-to-back fights in the UFC have been both split decisions, but prior to that, I mean, he's shown a lot of potent ability, punching power ability, and I feel like Jamie Malarkey's chin is somewhat a little bit questionable. I could see Malarkey getting dropped maybe a couple of times in this one, but I think there's going to be a barn burner, and I think there's going to be a lot of violence in this one. Somebody's getting a 50K bonus out of this fight.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the best plays. I don't think you can play Guram at minus 335 or whatever it is, and that line just continues to grow. No, like it's greasy. I think what you're saying makes more sense. I think you'd get a better line. Even if fight doesn't go to decision, it's like minus 250. It's still better because Jamie Malarkey's always live for a finish. He's always live to make things close. And I think if he does win, it'd be like a flash KO or a sub where he clips him or, because Guram.
Or he gets caught pressing on the way in, right? So that under's nice. I like that.
Yeah, I think
even
that's
those leaning towards Malarkey is the play. If Malarkey does press the pace and do what he's trying to do with his takedowns and whatnot, he get caught on the way in too. So smart play.
I personally.
And then another thing is with the inactivity of Guram Gudielate, granted, like one may look at that as a negative. You can also look at that as a positive. It's like he's going out here to get a 50K bonus. He hasn't fought in a very long time.
Yeah, I think Guram, in my opinion, probably does end up getting the TKO or the KO in the spot. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of valid points. I'm also impressed with how many times you said his last name, because if I did that, there'd be fucking memes of me.
Oh man, meme. Yeah, we make a couple memes in the chat for sure. Okay, so I believe we are on to Nick. Nick, what is your next play?
This is not going to be a popular opinion, but my next play is Daniel Pineda. I'm waiting to see the inside of the distance line. I know a lot of people are on Caceres. If there's literally 11% of people on Tapology, they're on Pineda. But the same people were on Tucker Lutz whenever he was a minus 230 favorite. And I was sitting there with like a plus 800 Daniel Pineda submission ticket. So I'm going back to the bank with this one, man. I think Daniel Pineda, although he's the older fighter, took time off from that Cub Swanson fight, trained like he said he was doing, and reevaluated his cardio, reevaluated his technique, and honestly grew a lot of skills in the process. I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter. And I think the only way Caceres wins this fight is by point fighting. It's in the smaller cage, and I think Pineda will either be able to get him down or just the fact that pure power is going to end up winning him minutes in this fight.
That's a play for me. I was actually looking at fight ends in sub as a prop that we were looking at for that one. I made myself personally sprinkle actually Caceres ends in sub, but I really like looking at Caceres live on this one, man. Right now he's sitting at minus 165. Where I'll make my play on this is going to be the fight ends in sub, but I like Caceres after the first round. Depending on how that first round does play out, a lot of people are speculating you're probably going to see Caceres at plus money after the first round if it gets out of there. I like that spot. I think that's a good way to look at it. So I'll be putting that out I'll at least tweet that out right away if it makes sense. But for me, I like like I said, I like the fight ends by submission, and then also the live bet of Caceres. I'm on the Caceres side of this one. I won't make the money line play a play. I just think that there's better value to see as the fight plays out. Billy, you got any angles on this one?
Yeah, I got to figure it out from a betting perspective, but from an X's and O perspective, I gotta lean towards the Alex Caceres side, and then with the narrative theory, I'm gonna put in a little bit of narrative theory here. I feel like this is a big momentum drop for Daniel Pineda. His last fight in his hometown in Texas, that was a huge win for him. The fight before that, Andre Fili, that was a big fight night card in the Apex. That was during COVID. I mean, Cub Swanson fight, that was a Figueiredo Moreno fight card. Fight before that was on Stipe versus Cormier 3. Like, they've been putting him on pretty big primetime slots and PFL and stuff like that. They're putting him on primetime slots. Now he's fighting in the UFC Apex. I feel like Alex Caceres, I mean, every time this motherfucker fights, it's in the UFC Apex. I feel like I'm just gonna go with Alex Caceres, a little bit more of a proven vet, and he has the cardio advantage here. I don't think he's gonna be that out. I think the one thing Pineda always has upside is submitting somebody, and I don't think he's about to submit Alex Caceres. So, give me Bruce Leroy. I think he's a more technical striker. Don't think I want to go to a betting window with it because I'm not too high on how much volume he's gonna throw here in this spot.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I think actually that's a good way to look at it too. Add the Apex as a extra comfort level for the padded, level of, like with Caceres being inside, anyways. But the bet Caceres, but I do like if we get value in a live bet, like I said, fight into submission and even Caceres by submission. I like, man, late in the fight, I think that could happen as well too. So, next pick, that was one of my picks. So we'll go back to Billy. Billy, any more picks for the night?
Main event here, Kai France versus Amir Albazi. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but one of the trends in the MMA betting community has been the flyweight unders. Is this another flyweight under here, main event time? I mean, I feel like a lot of people are going to be betting the overs on this, thinking about the way these two technical strikers fight. But when I look at this fight, I feel like somebody's getting put and somebody's getting promoted here. So I don't know which side it's going to be.
Yeah, I know Nick has been putting it out all week. Nick, you want to take it away?
Yeah, honestly, I heavily lean Amir Albazi in the spot. I'm not somebody who's a big fan of Kai France. I've faded this guy a lot, which means I've won some money, I've lost some money. You know, he's been one of these guys that's been up and down throughout his career. I honestly think Amir Albazi is the real deal. He did have an extensively long layoff, and I feel like, this is a giant step up in competition. But I also think people are putting a lot of stock into the Askarov fight, where I think Askar pretty much said, he was on the verge of retiring. Like, I know he's taken a fight since then, but I don't think his head was fully in it. If you look at Kai France's takedown defense, it's extremely high on UFC stats based on that fight because Askar was shooting for his hips nonstop and not successfully landing anything. But I think Amir Albazi, I think his striking's on point. I think he has the potential to hurt Kai on his feet. I think he has the more momentum coming into this fight. He's definitely somebody the UFC wants to push. He's got a strong following, and I think he's just going to be able to get him down when he wants to. And I think that he's going to have the better power and even the better striking, man. I just think he's unproven, and people aren't putting a lot of stock in him yet. But remember, this guy opened up a plus 155 underdog. The line is dead even right now. And I think you'll probably be the favorite come fight night.
Yep, I like the under or the fight doesn't go that Billy was looking at. I'm actually potentially on the Kai France side on this one, but this one is a stay off for me.
There's definitely a show me spot. I can see that from a lot of perspectives.
I do see where
my
that
only concern with the Albazi side. I'm with you. I think he's the real deal. I just don't know if 5 rounds is 5 rounds, bro. And he was gassing out a little bit in a couple of his earlier spots when he was fighting like Zagasimi Gulov. Like, granted, he won that fight by unanimous decision, but I remember he was slowing down a little bit in the third, fourth, and in the third round. I know Kai France can fight third, fourth, and fifth round. I don't know how effective he's going to be in the third, fourth, and fifth round, but I know he can be there and he's going to be an active body. So, I mean, that's enough for me, right?
Good point.
Well, you guys are going to hit up the main event. I'm going to dodge it, but I'm going to throw out my dog of the week. And I'm going to go to an old man because I'm an old man. I'm gonna go to Jim Miller. Give me some Jim Miller. I realized he lost to Hernandez in his last fight via decision. He sort of got outworked and sort of outpaced, and then just couldn't catch up in that fight. I get it, but that man against Jared Gordon, I think that with Gordon, Miller is going to hit harder. I think he's going to be able to impose his will more. I think he's going to be able to press Gordon more. If Gordon wants to actually try to take this to the ground, I get that he's a solid jiu-jitsu player as well too, but Miller's leaps and bounds better. And I just think that Miller tries to take your head off and kill you. And I think a lot of people are fading Jim Miller in this one because they think it could be the retirement fight, but this man wants to fight to UFC 300, and we're not there yet. So he may have one or two more fights before then. So give me some Jim Miller at plus money. It's plus 160 right now. I don't know. I just think that's the play. Jim Miller, dog of the week for me.
I think the UFC owes Jared Gordon a win here, man. He took the Paddy Pimblett fight. That shit didn't go his way. Then after that, he fights Bobby Green, takes that fight kind of for like the company, for a fight night card that they're trying to boost up a little bit. Then that ends up in a headbutt result, a clash of heads. I feel like Dana White and the boys were really looking back in the boardroom and we're like, how do we get Jared Gordon to win? We feel bad for this guy. And they gave him Jim Miller, somewhat of a veteran guy. I like Jim Miller. Granted, usually in most case scenarios, I would say Jim Miller is live in this spot, but I don't know, man. I think Jared Gordon wins by decision more times than not here.
Nick?
Yeah, it's just kind of tough for me to back Jim Miller at this point. This type of fight where I stay away from. Anytime it comes to like age-old vets, we talk about our lost gets on this card too. Like, it's just these are the guys who want to win, and they always do end up coming up with a victory every now and again. But it's not something I'm comfortably going to put my money on. Like a lot of times with these cards, like, oh, these are kind of just the fights I want to watch. Like if Jim Miller wins, man, fuck, I got DVDs in front of me with Jim Miller fighting back in the day. I want to see this guy win because then I think he ties a record or breaks a record in this one. But it's not something I would confidently put my money on, especially at his age.
See, I get it, man. We talked about this though, and it's like we've had this conversation with Eric Gonzalez. He knocks him out in the second round. We had this conversation with Nicholas Mota, knocks him out in the second round. I get it. Hernandez did outwork him. Hernandez is a beast when he actually shows up. So we've had these conversations. Cerrone, I'm not going to mention the Cerrone guillotine choke in the second round because really that one's just whatever. But maybe we want to look at a second round. Maybe if you don't want to play Jim Miller as a dog, you don't think there's any value there, maybe look at Jim Miller second round then because that's when he finishes fights. I don't know, man. I still think it's a spot. I think there's some value there for sure.
You don't think the UFC owes Jared Gordon to win?
What's that?
You don't think the UFC owes Jared Gordon to win?
Yeah, but I think when you do that on paper, you definitely look down the line and go, oh, Jim Miller, he's almost done. But Jim Miller's also a fucking dog. He's a pit bull, right? So, I mean, look at last week, right? There's some old guys on the card that still ended up destroying. So, I don't know, man. I think Miller's a spot. I don't disagree with the narrative of them looking down the sheet thinking, yeah, let's get him Miller. But then it's up to him to put Miller away, right? If he doesn't put Miller away, I don't think he outworks him for 3 rounds. I think Miller's going to go for the kill on this one.
If you look at the 5 fights in the main card, Karine Silva versus Caitlin Souza, Tim Elliott, Altamirano, Jim Miller, Jared Gordon, Alex Caceres, Daniel Pineda, France, Albazi, Pick'em. One of those dogs are probably going to come through. So it would probably go down to if you would rather bet Souza, Altamirano, Miller, or Pineda, and I would probably rank it Miller, Pineda, Souza, Altamirano.
And I definitely think that if you are looking at Miller,
number 1.
Sorry, go on.
I said I put Pineda number 1.
I definitely think if you're looking at Miller as older, then it is a Gordon decision. I just think that's not the case yet. I just don't think that's there. So I think it's a spot, but yeah, you're right. One of them is going to hit.
If they give me like plus 600 on Miller sub, I'll play it. Like if there's like a line there that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think
he's like second round.
Jared Gordon,
I could knock him out too.
I really don't think he's stubbing Jared Gordon though.
Yeah, but I can see like Jared Gordon like throwing wild and like.
I'll be honest, man. On the ground, Jim Miller could sub anybody.
Yeah.
That's something that
That's what I
before
mean.
he was knocking
Like
people
that
out.
number has to be wide. Like I said, like plus 600, plus 700.
Yeah, no, hey, look, if you don't feel like the Jim Miller's the side, and I know we're sort of beating a dead horse here, but if there's enough value there, like say if Jim Miller gets like to plus 200, because a lot of people are feeling the way you feel by weigh-ins, that's just a fucking smash spot for me. And then on top of that, if the sub prop is not really sub, that second round, he's won a bunch in the second round, sprinkle that out there too. But I definitely, like I said, I do see Billy's side of it because I think that if Miller does fade fast and you see him sucking wind, and that Lyme disease plays a play, I know everybody talks that shit about that, then Jared Gordon's just going to grind him out and wrestle him down to a decision. So, but any other plays that we could think? Anything else you guys can think out there? Some spots. I know the Karine Silva fight people are sort of scared of because Souza. There's a couple of things out there. We can either look at a couple spots or just let's put together a parlay with some sharp over-unders and maybe a hammer spot.
I think Daniel Santos is a good parlay piece, although we didn't talk about him.
Hell no. Come on to the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
It's gonna cut. I can't do that. I can't put Daniel Santos in the parlay piece.
I can't put Daniel Santos I can't fade Johnny Munoz as a parlay.
We all like Tim Elliott.
Yeah, I could see Tim, but that's a narrative thing. We're probably not going to get something organized before the thing cuts out.
I think Tim Elliott, Karine Silva plus 114 probably hits.
Yeah, I don't hate it. My original parlay for the week was going to be the Guram and the under 2.5 in the Santos fight. But now the Guram line's kind of gotten away from me.
Yeah,
Minus 350 on Guram. Granted, I think he wins the fight. It's just a little bit. That's a little bit.
It's a lot.
I sort of like that under though, man. Is something to parlay.
The only reason why the under scares me as a parlay piece is because if he decides to lay on top of him, like let's say Guram gets Jamie Malarkey down and just decides that that's where he's going to be and he's going to be complacent, then that can go over. I think he gets a finish.
But I think Jamie Malarkey's chinny, man. Very chinny.
So do I. I never trust wrestlers to do what they're supposed to do. Like once they have somebody down and they're in that position, it's like they're already winning, right? The minutes are there. So
I don't think we're gonna get something. That's okay. We'll do it in the chat or whatever, and we can figure out a spot after the fact, and I can throw it in the right.
Put all the banter in.
I think Tim Elliott's a good parlay piece. I will say that. I won't be parlaying Tim Elliott this weekend.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be at the top. But
it scares me just for the same reason that we saw a crazed woman go in the cage last week and just destroy another woman. Like you get a reverse effect from crazy shit.
Dude, if somebody fucked your wife, would you not just want to put a beating on the first guy in front of you?